recording. So, we're here. I'm Alex Kashkin. I am an engineer in the mechanical engineering department at MIT, and I'm also an art collector and a art conservator. So the art collecting started about a decade ago when I realized that it was a lot cheaper to buy art that was damaged than to buy original art in good condition. And so it started off with smaller works, and then gradually, as I got more familiar, more confident with things, I started getting works by more known artists, most of them in damaged condition, and in turn gradually learning how to restore paintings, how to be precise and ethical with doing so. The other side of me is the engineer that I am and have been for around 8 years at this point. And as part of that work, I got familiarized with a lot of techniques in mechanical engineering and a lot of tools, both from a physical and computational standpoint, that eventually I thought I could try to apply to the restoration of paintings in a way that no one had really been able to before. So the problem that I set out to solve is really that there's a lot of art out there that is in such damaged condition that there is no source of funds that will reasonably cover its restoration, because conservation takes a very long time. And one of the reasons that it takes a very long time is because for very damaged works, one conservator has to painstakingly in-paint all of the losses by hand. And for works that are either larger or more damaged, that process can take over a decade. So there's this very long time step that's done completely manually, even though for the past few decades we've had digital tools to envision what a painting when restored would look like. And I sought out to try and merge the two together and really see if we could apply some of the digital tools that have been developed and really affect physical results with them. So around 4 years ago, I sought out to try and demonstrate the translation of digital restoration to physical restoration of paintings. And I sought out and bought a very damaged 15th century piece, and that was the piece that was used in the study. Yeah, I didn't really like it, the aesthetics of it. What made it work well for this is that there are a lot of widespread damages, both fine and area scale, both to features that are very intricate, such as human faces, and also broader losses, such as complete losses of paint in certain regions. And what that means is the work is a very good candidate for demonstrating that digital techniques, which can reconstruct areas of varying degrees of visual complexity, those can be applicable in cases like this, where the amount of damages is really overwhelming for a conventional conservation treatment. The main challenges involved in conserving paintings span understanding of what the damages are, where they stemmed from, and the more complicated and nuanced question of which of those damages actually need to be restored. So in a lot of cases, a painting might have very complex forms of damage, and it's not always obvious that all of those need to be corrected. In many cases, they should not be. So in this work, my role as a scientist and an engineer has been to try and start to bridge these various ethical questions with the very quantitative tools that we have in engineering. So over the past couple decades, AI and generative neural networks have emerged as very powerful tools for image restoration. These tools have already been applied for years to aid conservators in envisioning how restorations might look, given the artist's original style. So starting with existing AI tools, we can create a digitally restored version of the painting. What I can then do is derive a infill mask pattern from comparing those two images together, the damaged version and the restored version, and identifying the damages that human vision is most sensitive to, and also the kinds of damages that we can restore given the physical properties of a physical laminate mask. If an in-painted region is too small, we don't have the precision to apply it precisely enough to the painting so that human vision won't notice it. Humans can really readily discern alignment errors in the applied mask, and so at a certain scale, we can't restore damages if they're too small. So the mask consists of several layers, including a white backing layer and then a color layer to achieve the color spectrum we need. And those layers are printed on very thin polymers that are bound together by conservation grade varnish. So you might ask why this mask can't be just one layer with all the missing colors. And the reason is that we don't have printers that can actually print the full spectrum of colors that's present in a painting. A conventional printer, when it tries to achieve a certain color, it blends different pigments together, and that results in a darker color. And so in order to achieve the color spectrum that we need, we have to have a white backing layer to really be able to reproduce some of the brighter colors present in a painting. So once the mask is placed on the painting, generally all the regions are pretty in position once you've coarsely aligned the mask. And there can be fine-tuning that's made possible by lubrication of the mask and the painting with water that then evaporates. But otherwise, it's pretty simple to get all the regions in the right places. And once the mask was applied, the painting was visually restored. It was a lot quicker than doing so manually. That was really fun and also unexpected, because usually when I restore paintings, I allocate months for doing so. I tried to derive a reasonable estimate of how much faster this technique is than manual restoration, and it's around 70 times faster. I also wanted to know how long this applied mask would last, so I tested out another mask in an accelerated UV incubation chamber, and what I found was that the mask would be reasonably able to survive for a century if it was kept in appropriate lighting. If the painting was kept in a gallery space that was illuminated with direct sunlight, things would get problematic within around 20 years, and the restoration would need to be redone. My hope is that conservators around the planet will be able to use these techniques to restore paintings that have never been seen by the general public. Many institutions have paintings that arrived at them a century ago, have never been shown because they're so damaged and there are no resources to restore them. And hopefully this technique means we'll be able to see more of those publicly. This is perhaps one of the rare cases where the application of AI to transfer styles and drawings from other artists, that application here is actually very ethical. And in being able to restore art, especially with the styles that were present at the time, I'm sure the original artists would have appreciated it, and this is a particularly good use of technology, as restoring damages isn't really creating new art so much as bringing old art back into good shape.